I'm ready to get into this because, again, I've had way too many conversations about the need to feel needed. And while I see this a lot in male demographics, I also see it in female demographics a lot. So I think we need to talk about it. So why don't we do that? Y'all ready? Let's go. All right, so what needing to be needed really means. The truth is that it could mean a lot of things. I'm not very dogmatic often in the things that I share with you guys. And so there's a few things, and I'm going to give you about 4 points. And you can let me know if they resonate or not. Fine with me, whatever. Take all, some, or none of what I share with you. You know I am open to your process. But like I said, my hope is that I drop you some information and some inspiration. And so I'm ready to start doing that now. First point, what needing to be needed could mean is that you are playing the good role. And there's a lot of people that are playing the good role. And I want to say this to you, that if you're playing the good role, or if you have children that play the good role, it's not helping anybody. Because the good man, the good son, the good woman, the good daughter, the good wife, the good husband, most of the time, good is synonymous with martyr. That means I can no longer do for myself. I have to be martyred, the sacrificial lamb for everybody's needs. And the unfortunate is that many times that idea or that ideology is sown into you by other people. Maybe your mom, maybe your dad, maybe your grandmom, maybe things that you read, maybe your friends, everybody, we're always learning, right? So we're always taking information from other people. And so if this was modeled for you, we talked about this when I was doing, which program? Hero Worthy? It's got to be hero worthy, because we talked about worthiness. We talked about mortal dominance versus divine dominance and all these groovy things, right? And the challenge is that when we're trying to be good, it's that good actually doesn't exist. Good doesn't exist. There's only good for you. Good doesn't exist. Good is a standard set forth by other people that you're trying to live up to. This is why religion can be so damning to individuals, because it's telling you, you must do this to be good, for God to love you, for you to go to heaven. It's very dogmatic. And regardless of what you believe about scripture or where your faith is, I think at some point you've got to agree that, okay, if we all have flaws, how am I going to be so good all the time? Well, then that puts you into a conundrum of, well, that means I have to renounce my needs. That means that I can't do what's best for me, because what's best for me may not be good for them. And I want to be good. And good means that I'm a martyr. So guess what? I'm just going to lie down with my wants, my needs, what I desire and what I deserve. I'm just going to lie right down on the altar and give myself as a living sacrifice. Okay. How's that working out for you? Probably not. Because I remember the times in my life when I wanted to be the good something or another. And that always pushed me down the road of doing what was best for the other person. That never pushed me down the road of doing what was best for Stephanie. We're actually not taught that. We're actually taught to do what is best for you is selfish. And selfishness is bad. I'm like, no, selfishness is required. If you spend your whole life doing for other people and not doing for yourself, putting them first and putting yourself last or even less than last, you are not going to be happy. You may sustain, you may survive, but you will not be happy and you will not thrive. And that matters. You're not put on this life or on this earth or on this planet or on this plane, depending on what you believe, to simply survive. That's not what you were put here for. You're put here to thrive. Because your thriving then becomes an example to the other humans that they can do the same thing. I love wearing distressed sweaters, but I like it when they're really distressed. Like I really need this to be like messed up because right now it just looks like I own a raggedy sweater. I'm like, no, the whole thing is distressed, but it needs to be distressed up here. I need to distress that. Anyway, squirrel. Y'all know I have ADHD. This is not new. This is what we do. So let me know if that's resonating. I know many of you will catch this later, but let me know if it's resonating regardless. All right, the second reason why, well, the second reason of what needing to be needed could mean is that you don't trust that you're worthy of being wanted, or you don't trust that you're wanted. Macaulay Culkin face. Well, why does that matter, Stephanie? Because this goes back to our understanding of how worthy we are. And I've been teaching you for at least the last 2 years that you're worthy in your being and not in your doing. And so if you're still performing, if you're still being that doggy in the window, then that is challenging. And that is why you're seeking out, or you are wrestling and white knuckling the need to be needed, because it's just not enough. It's just not enough. You're not trusting that in your quiet moment, your still moment, in your I'm doing nothing moment, that you're actually wanted. And so you're being called into a situation where you sing for your supper. You earn your keep because you don't trust that you're wanted, or you don't trust that you're worthy of being wanted. Now, if you're feeling that way, then it becomes important that you start to do some inner work. I know there's a lot of people, it's the beginning of the year. Everybody wants to do outer work. Everybody wants to jump in the gym and I'm going to do better and eat better and blah, 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 blah. And it's January 26th. So that's probably going to run out in about 7 days. So those of us who actually go to the gym as a lifestyle and we're active as a lifestyle, you know, the people are going to clear out in about 7 days. You get your favorite treadmill back. Okay. But what I'm saying to you is that it is so easy to work on the external that oftentimes we don't work on the internal. We really don't. We think we are. But if you're going to the gym and you're still talking about, you know, how unhappy you are, then the gym is not going to satisfy your soul. I do a fair amount of outer work and inner work. It's necessary. It is necessary. That's what healing is. And actually, it's more inner work than outer work. But the outer work is good because let's say you're going outside for a walk. You're getting that sun on you. Now, let me go ahead and caveat this as an integrative nutrition coach. I have to tell you, if you are brown, if you are overweight, you are not getting vitamin D from the sun. This is why most people who are over a size, I don't know, whatever that, okay, so the BMI chart is complete nonsense. I swear, I'm just going down all the rabbit holes today. BMI is complete nonsense. It doesn't take into account bone density. They use it because it is a chart, but it is absolutely incorrect. Incorrect. Because everybody can have different bone density. And so your weight being, your BMI being indicative by your height and your weight, yeah, it's missing a lot. My own physician said this. He hates the BMI chart, period. So that being said, well, where was I even going with that? Sunshine. But here's the thing. Unless you are tiny and white, you are not getting sunshine from, you're not getting vitamin D from sunshine. It's not happening, which is why most people of color are vitamin D deficient. Now, if you look up all the things that vitamin D does, that might explain why you feel the way that you do. It's a real thing, people. Have your doctor check you for vitamin D deficiency. And that too, the anatomical, that's all. It's not, the inner work is not just about the mind, it's about the inner workings of our bodies. And you're not going to out gym that. You're also not going to out gym. The gym is also not going to fix the fact that you're not making great food choices. How did we get here? I don't know, but we're here now, so I'm going to stay in the pocket. But anyway, those are your health tips for the day. All right. Yay. But if you're not trusting that you're wanted or that you're worthy of being wanted, that's about inner work. That's not about going to the gym and losing weight. That's not about walking outside and getting vitamin D, although the vitamin D could have an impact on your mindset and how your brain thinks and possibly on your gut health. But anyway, that's a different video. If you're coming in, let me know where you're coming in from. But if you're and sometimes, you know, we can, as humans, we can become obsessed with how we're being treated and if we're even wanted. And I'm going to say this, you know, if you don't feel that you're worthy of being wanted because you're around people that don't affirm you, because if you feel unworthy of being wanted because you're being treated like you're not wanted, then we've got to adjust that too. Relational wholeness is a thing just as well as emotional wholeness and mental wholeness. There are 6 pieces to 𝘁𝗁𝗍, and it is about being completely whole. What is 𝘁𝗁𝗍? It is the system of wholeness that I created when I first came into the integrative nutrition and health space. So I created 𝘁𝗁𝗍. I'm a sociological healer because we have to look at healing in totality. It's not just one thing. It's not just meditation and nothing else. You know, a lot of times people are like, oh, I meditated. Okay. Okay. What else are you doing? Are you eating healthful foods? Are you arresting that negative self-talk? Are you allowing your relationships to mistreat you? Are you in fear-based connections that try to control you? I'm just saying, there's more to it than just meditation. As much as I love to meditate, certified in meditation, but there's more to it than meditation. So much more. But if in the end, if you're being affirmed by the people you're in your closest relationships with, and you're still not feeling like you're worthy, that's inner work. That's rewriting the narratives that have been inscribed upon our hearts and our souls over time. That is releasing ourselves from the bonds of trauma. But listen, if we don't trace the trigger, then we can't face the trigger. Oftentimes, in the beginning stages at least, when we're triggered by something, that is a waving neon flag from a wound somewhere that's saying, heal me. The beautiful thing is that once we get beyond the healing phase to the initial healing phase, we can find so many other things. And that was why we did the masterclass, what do we call it? An intensive called The Gift of Triggers. What? Some of y'all missed that. You weren't around then, but I don't know. Gift of Triggers might come back around. I don't know. Anyway, I think I've done enough with point 2. I'm going to go to point 3. Point 3, which kind of goes with point 2, because point 3 is that you alone is not good enough. Only you doing something is good enough. In your headspace, I see a wow face. In your headspace, it's like, is me not, I remember, and I'll take this back. I'll give this, I'll kryptonite with y'all for a minute. I'll do some kryptoniting with you all. So back in the day, I used to act as if I had to do in order to be a good friend. And so to that end, I would say things like, well, if you're around, like I remember one of my best girlfriends at the time had her first child, and I was like, well, you know, if I'm around you, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, well, here's the thing though. As much as I love babies, you know, that's still not my child. But in my head, there's nothing wrong with helping your friend with their baby. There is, however, something wrong with helping your friend with their baby because you're trying to verify and validate that you deserve to be around. I'm no longer singing for my supper. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to sing for my supper. I'm not going to perform for you. Will I do for you? Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with doing for people. It's about the motive. It's the reason behind it. I can do the exact same things that I used to do, but my motive is different. Because I don't have anything to prove. Now, every now and then I've gotten caught slipping. Yeah. Found myself in a fear-based connection. I wasn't the fearful one, but I found myself in a fear-based connection. Found myself actually for a moment trying to prove that I wasn't X, Y, and Z. But here's the thing. That's not my norm. Those are just little moments that again, I got caught slipping. I can attest to that. And I can also attest to the fact that as the moment that I recognize, hey, what are you doing, Steph? I dial that right on back into my norm, which is worthiness in my being and not in my doing, which is recognizing that not only am I good enough, but I am great enough and I am all. I have enough. I am enough. I remember when friends used to have dinners, I would make sure I was in the kitchen doing. Because again, here I am trying to prove that I'm worthy of your friendship. Nobody should have to prove that they're worthy of friendship. Sounds asinine as I say it out loud. Sounds completely asinine as I'm saying it to you. But I did it. So when I'm sharing this stuff with you all, please trust and believe that I'm not coming from some textbook. Oh, I just read about this, and so I want to tell you about it like my life has been rainbows and rosé. No, I'm pulling this from the archives. This stuff is coming out. I am kryptoniting from the archives of Stephanie D. McKenzie. Good, bad, ugly, and beautiful. I am kryptoniting and giving it to you so that you understand from whence I have come, where I am, and possibly where I'm going. But right now, where I'm going is to point 4. And point 4, I'm going to honestly say to you, is the dark side of needing to be needed. And the dark side of needing to be needed is when someone, and notice how I didn't say you all, because you all are here. You're learning and you're improving and you're evolving and you're transforming and you're healing. Yes. But for other people, okay, that are not here in this community, sometimes what needing to be needed really means is that you are attempting to control the narrative. Why would you attempt to control the narrative? Because this is a behavior of individuals that are steeped in fear. Fear of what? Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear they're not worthy, fear of not being good enough, fear of being kicked to the curb. So the dark side of needing to be needed is that you not only connect yourself to people that would need you and possibly could not function without you, but you manipulate relationships so that there is some sort of need. And if there is not a clear-cut need, you start to self-sabotage. I said you, but I don't mean any of you. I mean your friends, the people that you know. I mean, I'm sure some of you have been on the receiving end of a fear-based connection where somebody just will not let things just ride out. Just calm down. Nobody's going to leave you. Nobody's going to reject you. Nobody's going to abandon you. Nobody's going to neglect you. Nobody's going to emasculate you. Nobody's going to criticize you. Nobody's going to degrade you. Nobody's going to discourage you. Just calm down. But listen, when people are on that dark side, and they need to be needed, they're getting their value from needing to be needed. They get their value because they thought that this person inherently, this is why I said this is kind of the dark side, because if you choose somebody and you think, oh, well, they have less money than I do, so they'll need me to pay for stuff. That's why I said it's dark. It's completely dark. And I know that that's not anybody in this community. But I know, because I was on the receiving end of a fear-based connection, that you probably can relate to this as well. So that's why I'm sharing it with you, right? Because in that, a lot of times people, and I've seen this with men, but again, I've seen it with women as well. You may choose somebody that you know you have they have a need and you can cover it. And so if you can cover their need, then they will inherently need you. And then you get the ego stroke of feeling needed. The tee-hee-hee comes when the very person that you picked out to be the needful one ends up rejecting you, neglecting you, abandoning you, and then projecting their own issues onto you. and then they make a choice to be done. But you needed me. Home Alone face. That's why I said it's dark. It's really dark. Super dark. Very emotionally manipulative. Possibly emotionally abusive. If not, definitely toxic. Definitely toxic. Okay? And that's why I said it's the dark side, and I left it until last because I know that many of you have been on the receiving end of this. I have clients that have been on the receiving end of this. I have clients that have actually lived through being the one that was trying to control the narrative. I remember having one guy that was a client. This was 5-6 years ago, and yeah, he was kind of controlling the narrative, and then they got divorced, and then he had to try to fix his life, and then unfortunately encountered somebody that flipped the narrative on him and thought that he was the one that needed to be anyway. It can become a vicious cycle if you let it, but that's why I left it until last. But yeah, I want to say that needing to be needed is a trap. It really is. I don't even care if it's your children. Needing to be needed is a trap because it could cause you to perform and to have to do, when the truth of the matter is that maybe you're just supposed to sit back and relax. Maybe somebody is supposed to do for you. But if you're so tunnel visioned and laser focused on being the one that does, being the one that satiates the need, then it can create a vapid hole within you. Like it can create a void that will never be filled. It can. Because listen, if you're constantly pouring into someone else, the odds are you are not pouring into you. And what have I told you? When you overgive to someone else, you're undergiving to yourself. And usually what that means is that you end up in a deficit. And then now you're walking around saying, I don't understand why I can't get back what I'm giving. And I'm sitting here saying, you're never going to get back what you're giving to them. The only way to ensure that you get back the love, the care, the attention, the connection, the intimacy, the only way that you can guarantee that is if you're giving it to yourself. Because the hope is that that person is going to reflect that back to you. Now, I need to do another video in fact, I might do it next week, rejection versus projection, because that's a thing too, right? But when we give ourselves what we need, that means that we mitigate the possibility of bringing people into our lives that are going to reflect a lack of self-love back to us. If we're doing what we need to do for ourselves and someone is still mistreating us, then we know that they are projecting. One of the first things I do if I have a complaint about a relationship is that, oh, okay, I don't really think they're taking me seriously. Check yourself, Steph. What does that mean? Well, Steph, are you taking yourself seriously? Is there anywhere in your life where you're kind of engaging in doubt or dismissive, disregarding, discounting anything? Sometimes the answer is yes, but when the answer has been no, when the answer is no, and I'm looking at what that person is doing, then I know that it's not a reflection, it's a projection. And it's a projection of their own stuff coming up out of them being projected onto me. And at that point, I have to make a decision. Because I don't like things being projected onto me. I don't. You probably don't either. If you've ever had anything projected onto you, you probably don't like that. If you're a mom and your child ever projectile vomited, see, none of that sounds good. Projectile, that means it's like flying through the air, like, bleh. It's traveling. We don't want that. I don't want you projecting anything onto me, because that means that you're not allowing me the space to be who I am, to have the flaws that I have, to be the way that I am. You're projecting the energy of your past dramas and traumas, and as one friend of mine used to say, conflamas. I don't even know if that's a word, but whatever. You're projecting that onto me. And I'm like, but why? But why? If anything, what we can do for each other as humans is allow each other to be who we are. Hey, that's what I'm saying. And so, like I said, needing to be needed is a trap. At the end of the day, don't need want. Want is a much more beautiful energy, if you ask me. Now, I know people say a lot of times, you know, if you want something, detached from the outcomes and all of that, and that's a whole different video. But what I'll say is that, especially in relationships of any kind, I find that when you want the person, you don't need the person. That we're at the beginning of something beautiful. That's just my 22 cents about that. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. We got questions? I don't see any questions. So here, I'm going to wrap this right on up. My name is Stephanie D. McKenzie. I'm a speaker, teacher, author, and coach, here to remind you to always be your own superhero and to thank you guys for learning with me. Have a beautiful day.